cakes are eaten all over the world. We use them for things like celebrations, holidays, birthdays, just everything. When you're sad and alone at night. But when's your favorite time to eat cake?
All the time.
Yes. I love it. Do you have a favorite kind of cake?
I like red velvet.
Oh, that's good cake. It's chocolatey. It has that cream cheese icing. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I'm a big fan of almost all cakes. I like to experiment a lot with cakes, but really, what makes a good cake? Are you familiar with making cakes yourself?
A little bit. A good cake, it has to be fluffy.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just whenever I have a good cake, I want it to be fluffy. I want it to have a nice kind of just bite to it. I don't need it to be too undercooked or overcooked because that burnt taste is pretty awful. And when you try to cut into a cake, you don't want it to just flow out onto your plate and on the serving spoon. Those things are terrible. And then you want a good balance of flavor. And then I like to have a different kinds of like texture. So sometimes I have nuts, sometimes it's like a little bit of chocolate, sometimes the icings themselves are different texture than the filling itself. Sometimes I don't have any filling, but it depends. So I want to show you how to test a cake. So let's say that this is a cake that's directly out of the oven. I have a couple chocolate cakes right here. One thing that you should do is that you would have a tester of some sort. Have you ever used a toothpick or a knife? Yeah, so you just put it in, you take it out, and when it's still clean, that's when you want to take the cake out of the oven. Now, if you put it in and you take it out and there's still a bunch of cake on it, you know that it still needs a few more minutes. So that's always something to keep in mind. And so you may just kind of figure out like maybe 3 more minutes and check, maybe 5. You know, it's like it's something that's easy to figure out. And then this is a cooling rack. Have you ever used one?
No.
Do you know why I might use one?
No.
So the cake pans themselves are still hot. And so if the cake is in the pan, it's going to keep on cooking the cake. So you would need it to just sit on something like a cooling rack so that air could go above and below and completely cool it off from all sides. Because whenever you have anything out of the oven and you have something like metal and it's still on there, it's going to keep cooking the cake. And that is less than ideal.
Okay, I've never heard of that. So you physically take the cake out and just let it cool like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to take this one out too. And have you ever leveled off a cake and taken off just separated by the layers?
I've shaved around it, but not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I will show you this. My cake round says heart frosting. 'Cause, I mean, who doesn't? And I'll show you. So there's a little latch here that you can either click it and it doesn't move, or click it and it spins around.
Okay.
So I'll show you how to do one. So you see this round dome? It's not great for when you stack cakes. So a lot of times you just take a bread knife or a cake leveler and you just cut around it. And you have a perfectly even cake on top. That allows you then to just cut through the middle so that you have a layer, so that you have even layers.
Okay.
You want to give it a try?
Oh, sure.
I have another one for you. Here you go.
Okay. So we're just shaving off the top?
Yeah, and just use that one for like your own eating. You could turn it into cake pops.
Oh, okay. So am I doing that right?
Yeah, you're doing a great job. You are a natural.
Okay.
Perfect. Take that. And then just cut right through the middle.
So is it necessary to shave the side off to make it more circular?
No, typically no. Only because it's already got a really nice crust around. And then whenever you put icing on it, it keeps that nice rounded shape there.
Okay.
And speaking of icing, let's take a little bit of icing. Now, have you ever used the piping bag?
I have before, yeah.
Yeah? Awesome. So I just put a little bit of buttercream in here. I'm just gonna turn about. And this creates a nice guard whenever you want to put any sort of filling, whenever you want to make a perfectly even amount of icing so that you can have your cake. And so let me give this to you. You gonna show me something? Look at that. You are doing such a great job.
Thank you.
And so with things like this, you can either keep on spinning it around and icing it, or
Okay.
you can just lock it in place so that you can then smooth it out and do whatever else you need.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions about any of that?
No, we can keep going.
Awesome. Also, let's say that you don't have pastry bags. You know, like I always get mine off the internet and I buy a couple hundred at a time for like $10. But say that you don't have anything like that, you can actually use a sandwich bag, kind of as a cheat. Cut off the corner of the bag, and then you can just push the icing through, and then use that as a icing technique also.
And you can still add the other piece to shape the frosting, correct? The little piece. I forgot. What is that called? The piece where you put it in?
The piece? Oh, yeah, the tips.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the tips are great because they're just pointed cones, and so it works beautifully to be able to do things like star tips, rounded tips, so you could do all kinds of decorations.
So I could still add that tip to this Ziploc bag that
For
we
sure.
have here. Okay.
Yeah, so like I said, it fits in really tightly. And so I just took a pair of scissors and just cut
Okay.
them just there at the corner. So it's a easy way to be able to still have a piping bag and then be able to move from there. So there's something I want to show you as far as just cakes go. I have a cake. Now, I layered the cakes. I cut them like we did before, and then I took a fudge and I put fudge through the layers here.
Okay.
And so it's a nice thick consistency so that you have kind of like a slight chew bite. It's a really beautiful ambly chocolatey, almost like a candy that's in the middle. And then the buttercream on the outside is extremely light. It's a Swiss buttercream actually. And so it's really light, it's extremely fluffy, and just coated the rounds of it, like just coated around, and then popped it in the freezer for a little bit so the buttercream could get hard because it has all that butter in it.
Okay.
So it helps it so that you can keep on just scraping around and then icing some more there in the sides. So whenever I have any sort of cake in general, it's like there's always somebody who wants to have a cake when they order a cake. And I'm like, okay, so what kind of cake flavor do you want? And they might say something like, I want a lemon cake, in which case I could add lemon flavor to the cake itself. What I can also do is make a syrup, and from the just sugar and lemon juice, and let that boil until it's a really nice syrup, and then I can just take off the heat, and I can brush it onto the cakes themselves. So then it fuses with a lot more just lemon flavor, so that when they take a bite, it gives you that extra punch.
Yeah.
And you could do that with anything. Like if you wanted to make a chocolate syrup, you could do the same thing. Just brush it on, and you'll infuse it in.
Okay.
And so it is a good way to be able to add flavor. If you want to add just like a jam in the middle or a curd, those things are incredible. So there's always the look of it where you want to be able to use a piping bag and be able to, well, not always, but if you wanted to create a border like this one, where you have those really nice lines and things like that, that's where you would use the tip.
Okay.
And so I used a star tip to be able to do this. And then for the chocolate shavings on top, I just took a a vegetable peeler with a bar of chocolate, and I just started shaving it.
Yeah, that's good.
It's so easy.
Yeah.
And there's just always something you could do. You could crumble up chocolate. You could use candy. You could use mini chocolate chips. Whatever you feel.
Okay.
And it's just, that's one of the great things, is that you can always get creative. If you take some jam and added it with a little bit of water and just kind of microwave it for a little bit, and then as it's starting to cool, it gets all syrupy. You could pour it on and let it just drip down the sides.
Oh, that sounds good. I can imagine it already.
Yeah. So this is a chocolate cake with a fudge filling and a Swiss buttercream outside.
What kind of chocolate's on top? Is it just like milk chocolate?
So this, yeah, it's just a bar of basically milk chocolate.
Okay.
It's 60% chocolate,
Okay.
if that helps out for any sort of reference there. So, do you want to give it a try?
Oh, sure.
Yeah? Let's do it. I brought some plates. If you could help me separate the plates. And I heard it's somebody's birthday.
It's not my birthday.
Birthday? So here's some forks. There you go. Hey, it's our production person. Did you make a wish?
Okay.
Yay!
Thank you.
Okay. Melissa, in a piece? Oh,
Happy birthday
to you. Happy birthday, dear Tara. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
How nice. What's your favorite kind of cake?
Chocolate.
How lucky that we have chocolate.
I know, right?
Did you know this was coming?
No.
I love it. So, how do you like it?
It's pretty good. It's really good.
Do you see what I mean by the different textures between the different layers and the icing on the outside itself?
Yes.
I love that, just to be able to
Really
add.
neat.
It adds a little something to it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, but you can always add other kinds of fillings. Sometimes I'll take Rice Krispies and sprinkle it in the middle just to have a little bit of crunch when you eat it. Or like I'll take a cookie and I'll crumble it up and put it in the middle also, just to add a little bit more texture. And it gives it like a touch of fancy that is pretty incredible.
It's really nice. It's really good. It's not too sweet,
Oh, good.
not too bitter. It's just right.
Yes?
Right.
Yeah.
You're good. Well, if you want to see more just videos like this or just more explanations about cake and just how to make these things, log on to my YouTube. Facebook and YouTube, Paul Tran Bakerman. My name is Paul Tran. And you can go to www.youtube.com/PaulTran and please subscribe, like the videos. And my name is Paul Tran, and this was Paul Tran Bakerman. Thank you so much. Y'all